The town of Payson will not immediately use all of the new Cragin surface water available to the town. So in order to retain the rights to the water allocation, it was determined that the town would replenish existing wells with some of the surface water allocation not needed for immediate use by Payson's water customers. How could this be done? The new Cragin water will be injected directly into the town's water wells. During 2011, the town of Payson tested and identified 8 of our 42 wells that could be used for the purpose of storing the Cragin water. Now, we have an existing water system that is designed by and large for 42 wells spread throughout the entire 20 square miles of the town of Payson. That includes on the fringes of the town limits that have to pump water towards water storage tanks that are located pretty much in the middle of town. We're reversing that scenario when we receive water from a water treatment plant. Now the 42 wells are not delivering water, they're sitting idle, and all of the 4 million gallons a day from the water treatment plant is coming into town at one spot.
I was working at Tetra Tech at the time as a consulting engineer, and the town of Payson came to our company and says, we've got 42 independent groundwater wells scattered throughout the periphery of the community that pumps water into 26 separate pressure zones that are stored with 10 storage tanks up on the mountains in the middle of town. How in the world are we going to figure out how to distribute one single point source to all of those customers? I worked on the hydraulic model and the water master plan for over 3 years as an engineer before I finally came up with a solution that was, 1, physically possible, and 2, economically possible for the town of Payson to put together. The answer to that wound up being a network of pipes that act like a modern day fuel injection system on a vehicle. It's the same ball game, just a lot bigger. The water is pumped from the treatment plant, much like a fuel pump in a vehicle, and a tank. It pumps it in through a high pressure main, which is just like a fuel manifold, and then it injects into the town of Payson water distribution system in 8 locations, just like 8 injectors on an engine. And once it gets into those 8 different zones, then we can figure out how to distribute it from there. But each of these valves acts just like a fuel injector. It spits it out when the water's needed.
That's why we have to do extensive in-town additional pipeline construction to be able to deliver or hand that water off to each one of the water storage tanks.
This backbone is basically the heart in the circulatory system that spreads it out.
In 2012, additional pipelines to transfer treated water from the yet-to-be constructed water treatment plant to the existing system were installed in North Payson. A new 18-inch pipeline from Zurich Drive to Evergreen Street, across to Easy Street, to Manzanita Drive, and down Park Drive to Mud Springs Road was constructed. Also, an 8-inch pipeline from the Elks Club area west on Airport Road to connect to the airport storage tank was added. Another 12-inch water line is necessary to connect to the Rumsey Park water storage tanks and was constructed across Rumsey Park and McLean Roads on West Rumsey Drive. And in 2013, construction of the finished water pipeline from the water treatment plant site at Mesa del Caballo, 2 miles in length along Houston Mesa Road and cross-country to Tyler Parkway, was completed. Construction on Line A of the Cragin project began in Payson in mid-July of 2015. Line A begins just east of the roundabout on Tyler Parkway and turns south at the Beeline Highway. It goes south some 8,000 feet to connect to an existing water system pipeline at 504 North Beeline across from Ace Hardware. The connection to the existing line on the west side of the highway required inserting the pipeline underneath the highway. The process of installing any public utility under a state highway poses particular construction challenges. ADOT would not allow interrupting traffic flow on such a busy highway as the State Route 260. The only practical means of installing any underground utility from one side of a state highway to the other side is by boring horizontally under the highway and pushing the pipeline through the borehole. Using this method on State Route 260 and the Beeline, afforded particular advantages to the project.
Your boring machine, basically it's a horizontal auger for drilling a hole sideways through the earth. So you dig a pit, excavate it down to the depth that you want to be, and then you place your boring machine in there. It happens to run on rails like a train does, and it has hydraulic pushers that will sit and they grab a hold of a spot in the rail, and under pressure they push the boring head forward while it's turning, and then of course the spoil material comes back out past their augers and into the pit, and they scoop it up in a small machine and haul it out of the pit. They had on a very aggressive rock head that is specifically designed to go through rock. They placed the casing pipe, 30 inches in diameter, and then inside that, 12-inch ductile iron pipe went together piece by piece. 20-foot joints. They were joined together on the outside of the casing pipe, and then it was pushed on stainless steel skids with neoprene shoes. That keeps it aligned inside the pipe and doesn't allow it to collapse and sag, but keeps it basically in one straight alignment.
A few days after the project began with the bore underneath the Beeline Highway, the first connection to Line A was installed right in front of Ace Hardware. Day by day, the Line A work continued with the construction crew encountering barriers from time to time. Some were man-made and some natural. We originally expected to see about 200 feet of rock in the 8,000-foot Line A alignment. As it turned out, there was well over 1,200 feet. Before the ductile pipe was put in place, it was encased in a polyethylene sleeve to protect against corrosion. The ends of the pipe were coated with an elastomeric substance to perfect the seal between the spigot end and the socket end. Then 2 electrical connection wires were welded in place to connect each 20-foot length of pipe. This connection allows a small electric current to be run through the extent of the pipeline to prevent corrosion. A blue tracing wire was also laid on top of the pipe during the backfill. A radio signal can be run through this blue wire to allow the water department to locate the pipe from above ground with an electronic device. This enables us to mark the location for those who may need to dig near the water line in the future. Then a blue mylar tape is placed several feet above the pipeline as a warning to those that dig that they are close to a water line. By November, the construction crew was working on the area between Rancho Road and Airline Boulevard. One of the first tasks was to cut across the parking lot of Pioneer Village. Between Rancho and Airline, there were connections to 3 different pressure zone pipelines that required installation of regulators. One that fed the East Rancho neighborhood, one for Alpine Heights, and another that crossed under the Beeline Highway to connect to water tanks at the top of Airport Road. That line was buried in the American Gulch and went under the major drainage structure that crossed under the Beeline Highway. Gabion mattresses were constructed and inserted in the bend of the American Gulch to prevent erosion. Work was progressing at a good pace as we approached the roundabout at Beeline and Tyler. The Line A North Beeline pipeline was always considered to be the most difficult of all Cragin project elements. The normal construction method of digging a ditch for large pipeline installation is that you move tons of earth every minute with a large excavator in a limited space. But on this particular job, that method of construction was reduced to removing dirt by the shovelful and sometime by the handful to avoid existing obstructions underground.
Doing a project like this requires a lot of creativity on behalf of the contractor.
Oh yeah. I mean, you got to get creative, like by the roundabout by Home Depot. We're going around that curve right there at the roundabout, so we're limited for space, getting traffic to be able to get around there because we're so tight. We've got to tear the sidewalk out, get underneath the sidewalk. Plus we're working on a curve there. Well, the pipe doesn't bend very well, so we have a lot of fittings and things that we have to put in.
We had a bank of 6 conduits that were telephone, cable TV, fiber optics. 10 feet away from that or less, we had 8 primary electrical feed conduits. We crossed a water line 3 different times and a gas line that was parallel with our trench.
So we have to be underneath all of those lines. So we're getting a little bit deeper. We're probably about 8 foot deep going around there. So that's a challenge right there because you have to shore the ditch and everything to make it safe to work in. Plus you're dealing with trying to locate all of this stuff without breaking it, which the town's been very helpful with that. They have a vacuum truck that they help us locate it.
A soft dig is done with their vacuum truck, and their vacuum truck is basically about a 4-ton vacuum. The pressure washer loosens up the dirt, and the 6-inch vacuum hose then sucks up all of that dirt, water, slurry mix until we can get down and we can see a pipe.
On March 14, 2016, Line A was completed with a final connection that would complete construction of what is the main artery of the new water supply in Payson. Line A is truly the main artery of the new water supply. Now, Line H, which is already in and originating at the site of the new treatment plant, is connected to Line G. Line G crosses Overland from Houston Mesa Road to Tyler Parkway and is now connected to Line A. Line A, which runs 8,000 feet down Beeline Highway into town, connects to Line D at Airport Road. Line D goes up Airport Road to connect to the tanks at the top of the hill. Line A continues to Zurich Drive and connects to Line B, which runs all the way over to Mud Springs and connects to Line C there. Line C crosses under State Route 260, now to a connection that will improve service in the southeast part of town. Line A also goes under Beeline and connects to Line E, which will feed the southwest part of town. In all, Line A will bring the new Cragin water to 8 recharge wells and 5 water storage tanks.